Okay. There are some of the key principles we're going to talk about today fall into these categories. First, we're going to talk about how we can establish ourselves as experts in our space without calling ourselves an expert, but have people see us as an expert that they would want to go to for advice. Because if our business is seen as the subject matter expert in a certain area, then that builds trust, it builds confidence. It makes it easier for people to buy from us. The second one is this idea of how do we qualify the right opportunities. No longer are we just trying to get more opportunities, we're trying to get better opportunities, because smart companies have figured out, wait a minute, if I attract 1,000 people, but of those 1,000 people, only 75 of them are good potential accounts for us, then we wasted a lot of time chasing the other 925 people. So we don't necessarily want a 1-for-1, but we don't want 10-to-1. We want to narrow that down so that our salespeople can spend their time more efficiently on the right opportunities. And finally, this last one is how do we then go from somebody who's interested and qualified to making them want to be a customer of ours. And everything Marcus and I are going to talk about today is how do we create this convergence between the digital side and in-person. So our concepts, and we're going to be trading off back and forth, there are concepts we're going to talk about on how you do this digitally, and then how you translate that to in-person. Because oftentimes there are organizations where their in-person is great and digital isn't connecting, or digital is great and the in-person doesn't connect, and the customer, when they feel conflicting messages, just feels like someone's lying to them. They don't know who it is, but it erodes trust. And so if we don't fix that right away, it can be problematic. I will warn you up front that some of the concepts that we're going to talk about today are going to make you feel uncomfortable. And we want you to feel uncomfortable because we want you to have a different perspective on sales and marketing than maybe you have in the past. And part of that is understanding the stigma and the mindset people have about sales in general. So let's start with this. Let's say you're on the receiving end of a visit from a salesperson. They've broken through the gauntlet at your office. They've made it through security. They're walking down the hallway to now meet with you. What adjectives immediately come to mind when you think salesperson? What adjectives come to mind? Pushy. Thank you. Pushy. What else? You're on the receiving end from a salesperson. I don't see anybody smiling going, oh, this is going to be awesome. So what are you thinking? Salesperson's coming in. What adjectives come to mind? You think salesperson. So pushy, what else? Waste of time.
Boring.
Time. Boring. Whose interest do we think they're looking out for? Their own. Self-interest, right? Any particular industries come to mind? You think salesperson? What industries come to mind? You think salesperson? Cars. Okay. New or used? Same. Someone said used, all right. Used cars. Here's the thing. We've never met this person, right? They're a fictitious person. But these are the adjectives that we came up with. So do you think it's possible that your clients have the same perception when they hear somebody from your company talk to them before you've said a word? Someone says, oh, I'm in sales. And then what companies do is say, oh, I know. What we're going to do is we're going to change their title. Because then no one will know that they're trying to sell us something. It'll be like a mystery. Right? We'll give them some elusive title like client advocate. And then people will think that they're not selling me something, and this will be great. But we usually have that figured out. Because Monica goes into a store, and the hyper-ambitious salesperson walks up and says, may I help you? And what do you say? I'm okay. How many of you say, no thanks, just looking? Or something like that, right? So why do you say that? Why do we all say that? Because we don't want to be bothered. Because naturally, we know more about the store than they do. No, that can't be it. Why is it? Because we don't think they're looking out for our interest. Do you think the very first clerk ever went up to someone and said, may I help you? And the person said, no thanks, just looking? No, the very first clerk said that, and they said, wow, yeah, it'd be great. I'm looking for this. And then we've learned that the salespeople can't be trusted. So now when someone asks, would we like help? We say, no, thanks. So one of the principles that we're going to talk about today is this idea of disarming and making sure that we've disarmed our clients so that they don't feel us as someone trying to sell something, but instead as someone who's there to help. So laying that foundation, knowing that there's mistrust already and how we disarm that, I'm going to hand it over to my man Marcus, and Marcus is going to talk about the journey that your customers go on and how you can help them get there.
70%. Love this number. I think it's changing the game. I think it's why we have Content Marketing World. And it stems from this phrase, zero moment of truth. I know many of you have heard that phrase, zero moment of truth, but I'm going to define it really quickly for you. Zero moment of truth is the first time somebody actually contacts you, calls you, fills out that form on your website that they say, I think I might, Mark, I want to do business with you. It's the first time that they walk into your retail store. It's the first time that they say, hey, maybe, just maybe, I want to give you my money. That's zero moment of truth. Now, Forrester Research Group, who is pretty much the most prominent research company in the United States, they recently did a study. Many of you have heard this study, and this is what they found. That 70% of the buying decision is made, on average, before zero moment of truth. That's right. Before they talk to Jeff, the salesperson. Before they fill out that form on your website. Welcome, Barrett. I'm glad you're here, buddy.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, bud. All right. Before they fill out that form on your website, before they call you, before they walk into your office or they walk into your retail location, whatever that thing is, they have made up 70% of the decision already. And by the way, this started off not as a B2C study. It started off as a B2B study. So, let's analyze really quick. If this number is true, we're just going to have to assume that it is because Google found the same thing. Which department of your organization has a greater impact on the actual sale? Is it the sales department or the marketing department? Marketing. That being said, when a company is in trouble, generally speaking, which department is the first one that gets laid off? Marketing. Makes you feel really, really good inside, doesn't it, Carla? It makes me so happy. Makes me so happy. And that being said, generally speaking, when a company is looking to develop the business, grow the company, the first department that gets hired is sales. Isn't that interesting? Scott, why are we doing it like that? Because in the past, because of a lack of tools and analytics and things like that, we could tie direct revenue to sales, couldn't we? That's one of the reasons why we do it. And the other reason is because we've been doing it this way roughly how long? Since forever. Since this thing called business was invented, right? It's been going that way for a long, long time. But if we analyze history, what percentage of the buying decision was made, do you think, on average, before someone talked to a salesperson, let's say 10 years ago? What do you think the number was? 10 years ago. Today, 70%, what do you think it was 10 years ago? Yeah, 40 to 50%. Linda is probably a really good guess, okay? I could certainly see it in that range. So we've gone from 40 to 50% to 70% today. So the real question is, where are we going to be over the next 10 years? What do you think? What do you think? 90%, Marta, maybe? We know this, it will never go back below 70%. And here's my question for you all. How many of your sales team right now in your organization know this study, know this number, and know that this is what's happened? Zero. And this is a huge problem. And that's why, and I'm going to sound mean, and I don't mean to sound mean, but I say this very, very sincerely. Don't ever come to Content Marketing World again without your sales team. Don't ever do it. Because you will never get the buy-in that you're looking for unless they start coming with you. It's no different than, don't ever have another sales meeting in your organization unless somebody in marketing is there. Because if you're having sales meetings and marketing's not there, how in the world is marketing supposed to know what exactly the big problem is? The questions that the prospects and the customers are asking. The biggest issues that the salespeople are facing. We've got to change this. Each one of us has to do this. We've got to make sure that the team is here. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okay, we've got to do that. It's a big, big deal.